Now at 5:30, Connect to Providence. Mayor Brett Smiley joins us live to discuss what is going on in the capital city. Of course, our focus tonight is homelessness and a possible end to the state takeover of Providence Public Schools. Mayor, good to see you. Happy New Year.
Nice to see you. Happy New Year.
Let's talk a little bit about what happened last night. Two city councilors opened up the chambers to allow people without homes to sleep there. You immediately said you were against the idea.
I was. I mean, listen, it is heartbreaking. We just heard the weather report that no one should want to know that our neighbors are sleeping out in the cold tonight on any night. And so my administration has done more than any mayor has ever done before and more than any other city in town is doing to support additional shelter beds. There were 3 emergency shelters open in the city last night. They weren't turning people away. That's Crossroads, Emmanuel House, and the Providence Rescue Mission. And they're part of a system, and that's really where the services should be provided. I opposed last night's move. You know, the counselors who were involved, they were able to give shelter to about 30 people last night. They would have had other alternatives. They also raised awareness and made their point. But City Hall is not overnight shelter. It is not a long-term solution. And I think a serious solution to this problem is working within the system to ensure that everyone has a place to go any night of the week, but particularly during this cold weather.
Do you feel like that was a political stunt last night?
I think there was certainly an attempt to get the attention that they got.
Okay.
I think they got exactly what they were going for. But there were also 30 people in City Hall, and I'm glad that they were off the streets. But I know that they had alternatives as well. And
right, so using the Da Vinci Center instead of City Hall tonight. But is there a chance they could come back to City Hall? What would you do? Would you lock the doors? Would you let them in? What would happen?
So, you know, these are duly elected city council people. I'm not going to lock them out of City Hall. They have access to the building. It's their building as well. But Da Vinci Center has been made available tonight in lieu of City Hall. And so I'm not anticipating City Hall. I think they made their point. They had their moment. Da Vinci Center is open tonight with that same core of volunteers that were at City Hall last night.
When people saw this last night, a lot of people were asking who runs City Hall. Is it Mayor Brett Smiley or are these 2 city councilors who seem to be inviting whoever they wanted to the chambers?
So it's a city building. It's my responsibility to manage the building, but the council chamber is very much their room. And so I respect those boundaries. I wasn't going to lock the doors and padlock them last night, but they made their point, and it's not a viable long-term solution, and I hope they know that as well.
What was it like this morning? I had seen some pictures, perhaps, that there was a lot of trash and that there was maybe 2 workers that couldn't work today about smell. What do we know about that?
So I mean, every day I'm grateful for city employees, but I was grateful for them particularly this morning because they had to do an extra round of cleanup and janitorial services throughout the building. It wasn't bad, but you know, we generally clean after hours in the evening, and instead they had to do it at 7 a.m. this morning. City Hall was open for business. It was a safe and clean environment for anyone who had to come and transact business. We got through it just fine, but this is not a shelter, and it shouldn't be a shelter. It doesn't have the facilities to be a shelter. And as I said, there is a system of care. There are trained professionals who do this every day, and I respect and value the work that they do, and that's where these services should be provided, which is why that's where our tax dollars and our investments go to that system.
Right. I want to point to the state housing director who told us today on camera that she thinks what the councilors did was right.
Well, I disagree with her. I disagree with her. And I would disagree with the state generally because I think what they showed last night, what Providence City Hall became is what's called a low barrier shelter, which is sort of like no questions asked, roof over your head. Rhode Island is missing low barrier shelters in its continuum of care, the whole spectrum of offerings. The much discussed Echo Village is a low barrier option as well. We need a low barrier shelter. The state needs to provide that. The City of Providence and municipal buildings is not the solution to that. This is a statewide problem that requires a statewide solution. This community in particular of unhoused folks is very transient by their very definition. So every individual city and town can't be solving this. The state needs to solve this.
And I should point out, in your defense, not all of them want to be in a shelter, right? Although when it gets really cold like this, what do you say to critics who say that you may say you've done more than other mayors in your past, but you're just not doing enough?
I think it's true that the need has grown dramatically. And so those things can both be true, that there more needs to be done. And we have factually done more than anyone has ever done in Providence before. But this is a statewide problem that requires a statewide solution. So I would tell the state housing director that last night's demonstration at City Hall highlights a need And she should step into that void and solve
Right,
that.
but you're
need.
also the mayor of the biggest city in the state, so
Right.
you know a lot of homelessness always tends to happen in the bigger cities, Boston, New York City. I wanted to point out what another critic said on X, which was State Rep Enrique Sanchez, who asked you, "Why do you hate poor people?" Pretty sharp.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of rhetoric that we get from Enrique on a regular basis, unfortunately. And he's big with statements on Twitter and short on solutions to actual problems. And so what I'm going to do is keep doing the work every day, which is making more shelter beds available, making more housing options available, making long-term housing options available. And that's the serious work of government that I'm committed to, and not so much into saying outrageous things on Twitter for likes and tweets and reshares.
When we talk about shelters that are open, so tonight is going to be extremely cold, right? So if I was a person without a house,
Yes.
You're saying that there is definitely a shelter somewhere in the city that will not turn me down, because we've also heard people where they've gone to Crossroads, been turned down, they've gone to this other one, been turned down. So as we sit here today, you are saying there's enough shelter space in the city on a freezing cold night to help all those who are unhoused.
Tonight in the city of Providence, there are at least 3 shelters which are in what's called Code Blue status, means they will not turn you away. The Providence Rescue Mission, Emmanuel House, and Crossroad.
And they're all open.
All 3 are
So
open.
if we go at 10 o'clock tonight, it's open.
Correct.
Okay, they're not going to turn us away.
Nope.
Okay. I want to switch gears to the school takeover. You had come out and said that you'd like to have the schools back in your possession by July. What have you and the city done any different that makes you think that you're ready for that?
So we've been working since last year on a return to local control. There's been substantive work done that will culminate this spring. The takeover has run its course. We are ready. The time is now. We should get our schools back this summer. The state has moved the ball as far as they're going to move it, and I do not believe that another 2 years of state control is going to yield better or different results for our students.
But can you guarantee that when you take it, you'll move the ball further than they did in 2 years?
It is time for these. I'm not going to tear up the plan that the state wrote. I actually think that they wrote a good plan, and it involved a ton of community involvement. We're going to go execute that plan. All we've done is traded one bureaucracy for another. We took the city bureaucracy and replaced it with RIDE.
And plans are always good on paper.
Exactly. It's only as good as it's implemented. And so we're ready. We're ready to take our schools back. The time is now.
Okay, we'll see how that unfolds. My back's up against the wall in terms of time, Mayor, but thanks for making some time for us
Thank
tonight.
you.
We always appreciate it.